Have you ever noticed how sometimes people, they seem to float like butterflies, moving from one thought to the next, always dancing just out of reach? And isn't it fascinating how the mind can create these little diversions, like soft clouds drifting across a bright sky, momentarily covering the light, yet underneath the sun is always shining. Somewhere deep inside, we all know that feeling, when the heat of a situation rises just a little too quickly, and suddenly we find ourselves talking about the weather, cracking a joke, or mentioning something completely unrelated to the story, just to keep things light. Isn't it interesting how the mind can guide us to keep things light, even when it knows something deeper is waiting patiently for a moment to be seen? You see, the distractor is like a clever magician, pulling your focus to one hand while they reveal the trick is happening in the other. It's a pattern born out of brilliance, a well-rehearsed performance designed to keep things feeling safe, even if just for a little while, and it works until it doesn't. And sometimes, isn't it curious how the very act of avoiding something can make it feel even bigger, like trying to push a beach ball under the water, only for it to pop back up when you least expect it. The harder you push down, the more determined it becomes to rise. But what if there was a different way? What if you could recognize those moments, not as mistakes, but as messages from the unconscious, gently reminding you there's something important to notice, something asking in its own unique way for your attention, not to overwhelm you, but to help you, to show you that you're strong enough, safe enough, ready enough to look directly at what is there and discover it's not nearly as scary as it once seemed. Imagine how freeing it would be to stand in the middle of a conversation, feel that familiar pull to distract, and simply smile, knowing you no longer need to escape, because you've already learned how to face things in a way that feels easy, light, and even enjoyable. Turning the page of a book you've been meaning to read, and suddenly realizing the story is far more exciting than you expected. The distractor is only trying to protect you. It's not comforting to know. It's not a flaw. It's not a weakness. It's a well-practiced strategy, a clever tool for dodging discomfort. And every tool can be used differently once you recognize its purpose. And what if the next time someone changes the subject, cracks a joke, or drifts into distraction, you could see it as a doorway, a soft signal, like the sound of rain in the distance, that tells you there's something just beneath the surface, waiting gently to be explored. What if, by simply noticing, you could create a space where that person feels safe enough to step out of their distraction and into real conversation? Wouldn't that be a gift to both of you? Because here's the secret. When you notice the distractor, you've already begun to change it. The act of noticing transforms everything, like shining a light in a dark room. Suddenly what seem like shadows become familiar shapes. It's easier to navigate when you can see what's really there. And you might even start to realize the distractor isn't an escape, it's an invitation. An invitation to soften, to slow down, to breathe, to bring warmth and curiosity into the places that once felt overwhelming. As you breathe right now, you might notice a certain calm beginning to settle in, a quiet reassurance, like a steady rhythm of waves on the shore, gently guiding you home to yourself. The more you notice the distractor, the easier it becomes to recognize it, whether it's in yourself, a friend, or even a stranger. And each time you notice, something shifts, a window opens, a new possibility appears. And isn't it wonderful to know you can meet that possibility with ease, with kindness, with curiosity? And when you do, conversations change, moments soften, and suddenly, what once seemed difficult becomes manageable, even joyful. Because the truth is, you've always known how to face things. You've always been capable of turning toward what matters most, even when it feels easier to turn away. And now you know that, deeply unconsciously. Each time you notice the distractor, you also notice just how natural you can guide it back to centre. Back to what's real. Back to what's ready to be seen and understood and gently resolved. And isn't that a beautiful thing? Isn't it funny how life has a way of nudging us in the most unexpected ways? A comment, a fleeting glance, a sudden change in the conversation, and maybe you've noticed it before, that curious shift in focus, like a bird suddenly changing direction in flight, gliding effortlessly towards something unseen, something waiting, something meaningful. And perhaps there's a part of you that knows. Every shift in your focus is an opportunity. Every distraction, every sidestep, every clever little detour is simply a sign that something deeper is at work. And isn't it comforting to know, to realise, there's no such thing as a wrong turn, just a different path leading you exactly where you need to go. You see, the distractor is a guide, a messenger, a storyteller with a bag full of shiny, interesting things. It's not trying to take you away from what's real. It's offering you a moment of pause, a gentle space to breathe, to reset, to reorganise your thoughts, to find your footing before stepping forward again. And sometimes the very best way to move forward is to first shift your gaze. As you think about that now, doesn't it feel good to imagine how every shift can actually bring you closer to clarity? So imagine standing on the shore, watching the waves roll in and out. Some waves are small, barely a ripple, while others they rise up, higher, and they crash with power. And sometimes it's easier to turn your attention to the horizon, to let your mind wander as the waves do what they do. Because you know they'll always settle back into calm eventually. The distractor is that horizon. It's the space between the waves, a place where the mind can rest for a moment. It's not avoidance. It's a necessary adjustment, a chance to regain balance. Isn't balance something worth having? Isn't it reassuring to know, even when the mind wanders, it always knows how to find its way back? And the funny thing is, the more you trust that wandering, the easier it becomes to notice the right moment to gently guide things back. Because every conversation, every interaction is like a dance. Sometimes you lead, sometimes you follow, and sometimes you spin off into unexpected directions only to return, refreshed, renewed and ready. Now you might begin to wonder, how do you know when it's time to bring things back? How do you know when the moment is right to shift from distraction to connection? The answer is simple. You always know. There's a part of you, deep, intuitive, wise, that knows exactly when it's time. It's the same part of you that remembers how to breathe deeply when things get overwhelming, how to soften when the world feels sharp. As you listen to that part, you'll notice how naturally it guides you to the perfect moment. And maybe you're already starting to feel that now, the sense of ease, of knowing, of flowing naturally from distraction into connection, from avoidance into presence, from chaos into calm. Because here's the beautiful thing. The distractor, it isn't trying to hide. It's inviting you to slow down, to listen, to look around, and to notice what's really there. When you notice, when you allow yourself to truly see, you begin to realize every distraction is simply an unopened gift. What if every time you saw someone change the subject, crack a joke, or glance away, you could see it as a gift, a doorway into their world, a chance to understand them more deeply? What if their distraction wasn't an escape, but a signal, a quiet request for kindness, for connection, for someone to meet them where they are and gently walk with them towards what matters the most? And you already know how to do that. You've always known. It's that soft voice inside, the one that whispers, just take a step, it's okay, you got this. The same voice that knows how to turn avoidance into understanding, how to transform distraction into connection, how to guide conversations from the surface into something real, something meaningful. As you begin to notice this in others, you also start to notice it in yourself. Moments where you once felt the need to turn away, they'll feel softer, lighter, easier. Conversations that used to feel difficult, they'll flow naturally, effortlessly. And with each conversation, each interaction, you'll find yourself more and more curious about what's really there, curious about what's possible, Curious about how quickly things can change when you simply notice and respond with kindness. And that's the secret, isn't it? The power, it isn't in avoiding or confronting, it's in noticing, in gently turning toward what's there, trusting you've always known the right moment, the right word, the right breath to bring everything back into balance. And the best part, the more you practice this, the more natural it becomes. It's like learning to dance. You might stumble at first, but before long, you're moving with ease, spinning and turning and stepping into perfect rhythm, without even thinking about it. And every step, every spin, every pause is perfect. Every word, every shift, every moment, it's exactly as it should be. So now, as you continue on this path, you might begin to notice yourself becoming even more aware of the subtle shifts in others, aware of the invitations hidden in their words, aware of your own ability to gently guide things back to center, back to connection, back to what's real. Isn't that a wonderful thing to know? Because it's fascinating, isn't it? How conversations, they can feel like walking through a garden at sunset. They are soft and warm, colours blend and shift, and each step takes you somewhere unexpected. And somewhere along the path, you begin to notice a small gate, slightly open, almost hidden by climbing vines. And you pause for a moment, curious, feeling that quiet pull towards something, waiting just beyond. And you could walk past it, many people do, but something about the gate holds your attention. You know deep down, whatever lies beyond it is something worth discovering. It might be familiar or brand new, or a little of both. Either way, you step closer, noticing how easy it is to move through that space. Gently brushing the leaves aside, entering something deeper, quieter, richer. And perhaps you've already begun to notice. Every step through this garden is like a conversation unfolding, layer upon layer, thought upon thought, each one revealing just a little more of what's underneath. And much like the gate, there are moments in life, moments in conversations, where something unexpected appears. A joke, a sudden shift in focus, a casual comment that seems to come from nowhere. What if those moments weren't random at all? What if they were secret openings, doorways into deeper understanding? You see, the distractor is the gate. Not a dead end, not a detour, but an opening. A chance to step into a new space. And the funny thing is, the more you explore it, the more you realise it's been there all along, quietly waiting for you to notice. And isn't it interesting how the mind has its own rhythm, its own timing, like the tides of the ocean, constantly shifting, rising and falling, always in motion, yet perfectly balanced. And just like the ocean knows exactly when to rise, you already know the perfect moment to guide any conversation back to what really matters. Because that's the real magic, isn't it? It's not about forcing the tide. It's about understanding its rhythm. Once you understand that rhythm, everything becomes effortless. As you think about all of this now, you may start to notice how certain conversations begin to feel lighter. How it becomes easier and easier to recognise those openings. Now naturally, you can step through them. Now here's something curious. Have you ever watched someone weave a basket? It seems so simple at first, just bending and twisting a few strands together. But as you keep watching, something extraordinary happens. Each strand, once separate and fragile, becomes part of something much stronger. The basket takes shape, weaving itself into a solid structure, capable of holding so much more than you expect. The distractor is one of those strands. At first glance, it might seem like it doesn't belong, like it's pulling things apart. But as you continue weaving, you start to see its purpose. It gives your basket its flexibility, its strength, its capacity to hold everything together. And suddenly, what once seemed like a distraction becomes an essential part of the whole. And isn't it wonderful to know? Your mind already knows how to weave these strands together, how to turn distractions into connection, avoidance into presence, confusion into clarity. It's a skill you've been practicing for longer than you realise, and it only grows stronger the more you notice it. In fact, you may already find yourself becoming more and more curious about how easily you can notice these shifts in others, curious about how naturally you can guide them back, Curious about how quickly everything changes when you simply allow it to unfold. Because that's the secret, isn't it? There's no need to force anything, no need to rush. The mind knows exactly what to do in exactly the right moment. All you have to do is trust it. And as you do, you may begin to realize these moments, these small shifts in focus, they're actually the most powerful moments of all. They're the moments where true change begins, where understanding deepens, where everything becomes clearer. And the best part, it's already happening right now, in ways you might not even fully recognize. Because every word, every pause, every breath is part of the process. Every conversation, every interaction is an opportunity. An opportunity to see more clearly, to listen more deeply, to connect more fully. And just like the garden, with its hidden gates and winding paths, every conversation invites you to explore something new. And the more you explore, the more you discover, the more you realize just how much you already know.